and welcome back to the Murder, She Wrote Rewatch podcast. We're at episode 2 of this, technically episode 1 of the series, because in the DVDs I got, it's listed as episode 1. The previous one was listed as the pilot. But this one is called Deadly Lady. And things already start a little interestingly, as they have about a minute. They got about a minute worth of scenes from the actual episode. I'd forgotten that they did this. But they seem to just show bits and pieces of the episode that you're about to watch ahead of time to kind of whet your appetite. It was very weird. I usually don't remember. I didn't remember them doing that. And you get to see some different things. There's murder going to be happening. All kinds of stuff. And after that, it goes and segues into the opening, which is pretty much the same. It keeps having cutbacks between Jessica Fletcher writing on her typewriter, and they've got these scenes from episodes. Most of them from the first episode, the pilot, but they're surrounded by it's like a circle and surrounded by a white fog that aren't happening. And you see her writing on her typewriter, and she finally finishes her novel and taps it, the sheafs of paper, and puts it in this leather binder and closes it, and it has the title of the show on it, Murder, She Wrote. And then it segues into the episode, where you see a bad storm happening. A bad storm. Jessica is currently in her wonderful little apartment, her little house, writing, and she ends up arguing with the power because it starts to flicker, and she's just like, no, just hold on for this 3 more paragraphs, and then she'll go to bed. She's really getting into the writing thing. And of course, just after she argues with the power, she kind of pleads with it, just 3 more paragraphs. She types 2 words and the power goes out. So she goes in and lights a lamp, and somebody's pounding on her door, and it's an old friend of hers, sticking around Cabot Cove there. A fellow by the name of Ethan, I believe. And let me just check and see, and we'll see exactly who this person is, because I believe it's this fellow here. Once I have a look at his picture, yep, Captain Ethan Cragg, played by Claude Akins. Broad-shouldered and beefy Claude Akins had wavy black hair, a deep booming voice, and was equally adept at playing sneering, cowardly villains as he was at portraying hard-nosed cops. Huh. Interesting. Oh, wow. Nearly 100 films and 180 episodes. So let's see how many episodes he was in Murder, She Wrote. We'll go back. Where is Murder, She Wrote? As Captain Ethan Cragg in 1984. Deadly Lady, Hooray for Homicide, Hit Run and Homicide, Death Takes a Curtain Call. He was in 4 episodes of it. So a slight recurring character here. Definitely interesting. He's been in a lot of television. Way back. He started in his first role, uncredited, 1953. Wow. And he acted until 1994, which was the year he passed away. He did a lot. He did a lot of stuff. That's pretty impressive. So he comes in and checks with Jessica to make sure she's okay, make sure everything is battened down and whatnot. as well as letting her know that some damn fool is out in the storm on a yacht, uh, which is where things progress. So he goes off to go and warn and check on a few other people and whatnot after making sure Jessica is okay. And then it cuts to the next day. Everything's fine, peaceful weather. Jessica's at her morning jog, and she stops by a couple of older men, basically shucking clams down at the fish market, and she's checking on the boat and wondering if the people made it out okay, and he doesn't know for sure. So she continues on her morning jog, and as she comes home, she spots some fellow in her yard, trimming her bushes. And this old fellow's wearing this flannel, this black and red checkered flannel coat and a little hat, and he basically says he'll work for some food because he's hungry. She has some interesting discussions with him because he basically says that the house could use some work, the garden could use some work, etc., etc. But she'll make him some eggs and bacon and a good healthy breakfast. They have an interesting little discussion once he's in there. He mentions reading a book of hers, and then he's like, "Oh, that's you. You wrote this." And he spins a nice little tale for her that she ends up basically calling bullshit on, quite blatantly. In fact, she basically says, "Nope, you're a liar, because you're not really a hobo because you use the wrong term for being a hobo. You have a tan line or a watch used to be on your wrist. Your clothes are well worn but still in excellent condition. And that book that you said you read is an advance copy for me. It hasn't been released yet, so there's no way you could have read it." And he gives her another tale that he retired recently, got the gold watch from that, and he wanted to see America from the ground up. So he's out doing his thing fairly recently, and he still endears himself to Jessica quite a bit because he's a very charming man. The actor, in fact, is, where is it? I will find it. Give me a moment. There we go. The actor is a one Howard Duff. Tough, virile, wavy-haired, and ruggedly handsome, with trademark forlorn-looking brows that added an intriguing touch of vulnerability to his hard outer core. This is IMDb. Actor Howard Duff and his wife at the time, one of Hollywood's premier film couples. Interesting. Now let's see, what did he play in... he just had the one role in Murder, She Wrote. He played in a few other series. He was one of them big name actors. He was in the Golden Girls as Mangiacavallo. Huh. Weird. Knots Landing. If any of you have seen that, he's been in a few things, but he's one of those older actors out there. Now, while she's having her dinner, she gets a phone call from Sheriff Tupper about being some trouble down at the docks, some murder kind of trouble. So Jessica, of course, grabs her purse, grabs her coat and hat, and heads out on her bike to go meet Sheriff Tupper down at the down at the dock because the yacht come in, and apparently somebody's been murdered. She leaves the stranger in her house to continue doing what he does while she runs off. And that right there, that whole thing, she just invites the stranger in. No, somebody she doesn't even know, odd character named Ralph, but just invites him into home, gives him breakfast in terms, to pay for his work that he's doing, that he's taken it upon himself to do around the house, and then runs off and leaves him there in the house. It was definitely a different time because this episode aired in, when was it? Episode 1 aired 7th of October 1984, which is 94, 04, 14, 33 years ago, 32-ish years ago. That's a long time ago. Things were exceedingly different back then. But it just struck me as like, wow, I would never do that. I don't think anybody these days would do that, would trust somebody that much that they don't even know. But she runs off to meet up with Sheriff Tupper. Now, Sheriff Tupper is somebody that you guys, everybody should know this actor. The rather famous Tom Bosley. And for those of you who don't know who Tom Bosley is, he is the father, was the father. He's most known for Happy Days. He was Mr. Cunningham on Happy Days. I believe he was also Father Dowling in the Father Dowling Mysteries. Yep, Father Frank Dowling in the Father Dowling Mysteries TV series, which was about two years, 42 episodes of that. But he played Sheriff Tupper in 19 episodes. 19 episodes of Murder, She Wrote, from 1984 to 1988, for 4 years. He plays Sheriff Amos Tupper, the sheriff of Cabot Cove, Maine, the most dangerous place on earth. So that's really quite cool that he was in this. He plays such a lovable character. So she runs off to the thing. Mr. Cragg is there. Amos and Cragg are having a bit of an argument as to, what he should do. And Sheriff goes and introduces Jessica to the 4 daughters of the supposedly murdered man. And says that she is somebody that he likes to get the opinion of on certain tricky cases. I mean, she's a mystery author and a substitute English teacher. And yet, nobody bats an eye at the fact that the sheriff is like, I'm going to get her opinion on some stuff because she's pretty smart. So she ends up meeting the 4 daughters, each one very, very different from the others, and getting the story from them as to what happened. That the father was apparently killed by one of them while during the storm, or supposedly killed and washed overboard. All kinds of things happen, but nobody seems to really like the old man, which she makes note of. That nobody seems to really was going to shed any tears about it. There's some sibling rivalry because basically all 4 of them are going to inherit this multi-million-dollar, like hundreds of millions of dollars estate off of this guy. So there's motive for murder, which is one of the reasons why Tupper called in when the father disappeared. So the whole story gets told, and Tupper doesn't really believe the story that he just got washed overboard. So it finally comes out in the wash that that one person in particular was the one who was going to do it. Now, Jessica goes home. So far, there's still no arrests been made. So she goes home and finds Ralph relaxing on the hammock, listening to a Walkman of Mozart, and they have a nice little discussion, and she gets to know him a little more. Um, and he mentions about some rot up in her picture window that he can fix with just a little. All he needs is a little bit of money for supplies, like about $15 for supplies, which is boggles my mind. And then he notices a pipe and laments the fact that he doesn't have one. And this is a wonderful little moment because between the two of them, there's some wonderful acting here because that's her husband's pipe, her late husband Frank. It's a Mushorn pipe, and she gives it to him because she would rather somebody be using it than it just sitting around collecting dust. And it's a very sad moment. It almost brought a tear to my eye. I felt myself tearing up because between Angela Lansbury and the actor there, where's his name? Howard Duff. Between the two of them, there was some wonderful moments. And the next thing you see is a helicopter coming in to land in an empty field in Cabot Cove, and one of the daughters runs down to greet the fellow who's there, who you find out is a lawyer who immediately wants the body released. And they need to get, or not the body, I should say, but they need him declared dead so that the business can transfer on, which seems to be his only cause, what he wants to do. He's a rather sleazy lawyer. But Mr. Tupper, the good sheriff, is not going to do that without a body. Now, the sleazy lawyer man, where's he at? Where's that sleazy lawyer man? That's him right there. I'll bet money that's him. Yep, that's him. Dak Rambo. I wish I was lying. That's the actor's name. D-A-C-K, Dak Rambo. Mm-hmm. Given name Norman. And identical twin brother Dirk Rambo, named Orman. So Norman and Orman. Wow. Twins, no less. But he played a sleazy lawyer. Oh, and he's been on 3 episodes of Murder, She Wrote. This one is Brian Shelby. He was in another one 3 years later, and another one 3 years after that. All as different characters. Because again, back in this day, unless you knew an actor and were a fan and followed them, it was hard to tell. He was in a few things. He was in several episodes of Fantasy Island. All My Children as Steve Jacoby for about 7 episodes. He's been in a few things. None that I really know. Well before my time. Well before my time. Even though I was watching this, I was growing up when this was on television. Still before my time to really know. But he comes along, Mr. Brian Shelby, lawyer and husband to one of the daughters. Then we cut to Jessica and Ralph. Ralph's smoking his pipe, and they're having a nice discussion of some of basically family and that sort of thing, and how he felt when his wife passed, and so on. And it's a touching scene. Now, Ralph goes and heads off because he's got some business to take care of, but he'll be back probably tomorrow to do the repairs and whatnot. And tells Jessica says she'll leave the door open for him to come in, and he basically says, no, we don't want to start any rumors. I know how small towns can be. And Jessica goes and does the dishes, and as she pulls the plug out of the sink and sees the water going down the drain, she gets this boom idea and runs down to the docks to talk with the good Ethan Cragg there, because she has an idea that she needs his help with. And you see the two of them poring over a map that she is making some markings on with a compass. And he's on, how did you know that? And she's like, I just got this idea. So then you see the good sheriff heading down to the hotel where everyone's staying. And Jessica blows holes in their story about where they were when he was washed overboard. And that they couldn't have been where they were when this wind and water washed them overboard, because if they had been where they said they were at that point, they would have been in the eye of the hurricane. So everything would have been still. There would have been no wind, no big wave of water to do that. Which ends up changing the story to one of them admitting to shooting him. One of the daughters. And the daughters in particular, I should have a look at them too. You've got Nancy Earl, Maggie Earl, Grace Earl Lamont, and Lisa Earl Shelby. Maggie Earl is the one who confesses, I do believe. She has been in a few things. Is she still alive? Yeah, she's still alive. She was recently in Bad High, which is a short film, in 2008, and Kid Pound, another short film in 2008. Before that, she was in a film in 1992. So she had a bit of a gap there. But she doesn't have too many credits to her name. Where's the Murder, She Wrote? Yep, there we are. She was in 3 episodes. Different characters. 84, this one. 87, and then 88. She's one of the daughters. She's the one who confesses. Then you have Nancy Earl, who has been in... She's had a lot more... well, not a lot more, but she's had more. She was in Matlock, and she was in 3 episodes of Murder, She Wrote as well, as different characters. She was in Nightingales as Dr. Charlene Chasen. Never seen that. Jake and the Fat Man. I've seen some Jake and the Fat Man. She played the same character twice in 2 different episodes. 3 years apart in Jake and the Fat Man. That's kind of interesting. She was in Matlock as the same character in 3 episodes, and then a different character in a 4th episode. Quantum Leap. She's been in. Yeah. T.J. Hooker. Secrets of Midland Heights. She's been in a few things. But I don't think either one of those got too terribly famous. Unlike the actress who plays Grace or Lisa. Because Anne Lockhart is the one who played Grace Earl Lamont. And she has a lot more. She is still acting today. And she has been in the Chicago Fire TV series as a dispatcher and an emergency nurse. Law and Order Criminal Intent as policewoman in several episodes. Starzinger 2 and Starzinger 3 as Dr. Kitty. I wonder if that's an anime. It sounds like an anime. Yeah, Law and Order, NCIS, uncredited. She's done a lot of uncredited work, which is weird. I guess she likes acting, but she doesn't like being credited. A lot of her stuff is uncredited, I'm seeing, which is weird. White House staff, policewoman on Dragnet. She's done voice acting. Now where is she at? Kung Fu, The Legend Continues. Murder, She Wrote. She's been in 4 episodes of it. All different characters each time. Between 1984 and 1994. Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. So yeah, she's been in a lot of stuff. And the other one, Cassie Yates. I believe she's still... no, her last acting was in 1995. She's got more than the other two, but not as much as the lady that played Grace there. Oh, she's been in Magnum P.I. as Shelley Faraday and Betty Wyndham Collette. And Murder, She Wrote. Where's that at? Where's the Murder, She Wrote one? It's going to be around here somewhere. I probably passed it by. 19. Murder, She Wrote. There we are. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, 4 episodes as well. All different characters. Wow. She was in an episode in 1988 called Showdown in Saskatchewan. I will be looking forward to that episode. Simply because it's taking place in Saskatchewan. At least, I hope it is. Because why would they have the name Showdown in Saskatchewan if it wasn't taking place in Saskatchewan? I don't know. Oh, she was Millie on the Drew Carey Show in 2 episodes. I don't know if any of you have seen that. Cassie Yates. Pretty interesting. Those are the 4 ladies, as I was saying. The 4 daughters. And I believe Maggie is the one who ends up confessing. So the sheriff has to arrest her and take her in. There's some arguing that happens between the daughters, or from the daughters to everyone else, because they don't know what it was like for her living with their father, and he deserved to die, etc., etc. Then you see a young fellow comes in with the papers, and hot off the presses about the millionaire being drowned, and the good captain Ethan Cragg there goes and says, "You got it wrong. He was shot. He wasn't drowned." Blah blah blah. Yeah, and he was a cosmetics magnate. He was an actor and did theater makeup, and then he got into cosmetics and whatnot. Now, Jessica Jessica sees a picture of Mister Mister Earl, Stephen Earl, in the paper, and she's like, "I think I've seen him before. I think I have." And then the next morning, um, well, that evening, Jessica comes and runs home and starts calling around for Ralph, uh, and says to uh, Ethan, who's there, that she thinks that Ralph and Stephen Earle are the same person. Of course, Ethan doesn't believe her, and basically, she says that she's not Dottie, which was basically one of those words that meant a little crazy, touched in the head, and Mr. Cragg there, the good captain, is like, "Yes, you are Dottie, but I believe you. I believe you. You believe this." it's they have an interesting relationship, those two. You can tell they're old friends. That there's a lot of history there behind them. And then you see the beach and this dog on the beach and a little girl who ends up seeing a body in the water wearing a black and red flannel coat. Oh no, it's Ralph! And then we find out that Ralph is in fact Stephen Earle. He's identified by by two of the daughters as being shot twice in the chest, just like Maggie said so. But he hasn't been in the water that long. And Jessica comes along and has a look, goes and pays her respects and has a look. Just before she goes in, however, we see a young man show up to talk to one of the daughters. The daughter that's named Nan. And it's a coincidence one of the other daughters says that he shows up now. Now that actor, the actor that comes along and is there, "Oh, I'm comforting you, Nan." Nancy, as they call her, Nan, is an actor by the name of Richard Hatch. Not the Richard Hatch that won the that won Survivor. No, not that Richard Hatch. He is an actor, producer, director, and he has 100 credits to his name. He's been working up. He's still got stuff coming out next year. So he's still working, doing probably a lot of producing and whatnot, and acting, seems to be. 100 credits to his actor. The Silicon Assassin Project TV series, he was in that as Silicon Assassin. What else we got? The Guild TV series. What is that? Oh, yeah, The Guild with Felicia Day. If any of you out there have seen The Guild, he actually plays himself, I guess. He plays Richard Hatch in The Guild. Yeah. So I don't know if that's himself or what. He's been in Battlestar Galactica, the new TV series, as Tom Zarek. If any of you have seen that, you may know him. Oh yeah, he's been in a lot of stuff. But the one I want to know is Murder, She Wrote. And he's only got the one role, Terry Jones, in this one. So anyway, Jessica goes in and has a look at the body and talks to the mortician, basically asking him, do you think he's been in the water that long? And he says, well, the coroner will have to know for sure, but probably not greater than 12 hours. So then we have a scene of the sleazy lawyer, Mr. Shelby, talking with his wife, and basically saying, well, now that Maggie's been arrested, she's not going to be cashing in on the inheritance. So now we just have to figure out how to get rid of this one, and then we can have it all. So they have this argument, and he is a sleazy lawyer in it. Oh, it's amazing how sleazy he is. And then we switch over to the police station, where Tupper is questioning Maggie, and we end up finding out that Maggie lied, and that it was all a plan to lure Terry Jones out of hiding, because he was trying to marry Nancy just for the money, and their father paid him off, but he came up with this plan to fake his own death to lure him out of the woodwork. And Jessica basically believes her that she didn't kill her father then, when she, confessed to doing it, and argues a bit with Sheriff Tupper that that they should let Maggie go because someone else killed Stephen Earle. She even tells the sheriff to be quiet at one point. The poor put upon sheriff. And this is where Jessica reveals to Amos that, she's 100% sure that not only did they find him dead recently, before Maggie said she, confessed to killing him, but that the sheriff would have found a pipe in his pocket. And he's all, well, yes, I did. How did you know that? She's like, because I gave it to him. Because he was in my house last night, instead of being on the boat, dying, or in the ocean. And Jessica stops by the hotel to find out where Nancy went, and goes and tracks them down. Maggie's been released. There's a little discussion with the lawyer and the other daughters for a bit before you see Terry and Nancy walking through a graveyard, having a bit of an argument. And Nancy's not sure she trusts Terry. Not sure she does, even though she still kind of loves him. So she walks off, and Jessica's riding the bike up right next to Terry. Has a little discussion with him about his presence here and when exactly he came into town, because she doubts he came into town when he said he did, because of the announcement of the murder and whatnot. Gets him to admit he's been here longer than he said he had been originally. Meanwhile, he tries to, convince Jessica that, he's got nothing but good things in mind. He loves Nancy, etc., etc. And then she heads into the police office to see if she can talk to the sheriff, but only the deputy is there. This wonderful young lady who's quite amusing. Let me see what I can find on her. Sheriff, sheriff. No, no, no. Let's see the full cast. I think that's Emma. Yeah. I think that would be Emma. Carol Swarbrick. One photo. Yep. Carol Swarbrick. That's her. She's been in stuff as late as 2009, although she's only got 18 acting credits to her. So she hasn't been in a lot of stuff. She was in The Incredible Hulk for an episode. King of the Beach. She was in an episode of Night Court. And she was in three episodes of Murder, She Wrote between 1984 and 1990. This one, one in 87 and one in 1990. And an episode in Columbo. So she hasn't been in a lot. But she was the narrator for See How They Grow, Tree Animals, and See How They Grow Desert Animals. So she hasn't been in a lot of stuff, but she's been in a few. She's been in a few things. But in this one, she was quite interesting as a deputy, because she's there starting to clean a gun, and telling Jessica, "I can't tell you where the sheriff is because that's I know you're helpful and everything, but that's against the law. Not supposed to be discussing, etc., etc." And then the sheriff, or somebody, ends up calling for the sheriff, one of the other deputies, and without even looking behind her, seeing that Jessica is eavesdropping on the entire conversation, she ends up saying where Sheriff Tupper is, that he's down at the beach because he got an anonymous tip and is looking for evidence, etc., etc. And Jessica goes and runs out the door as soon as she hears that. Running out the door because she's a bit of a busybody. And down at the beach, Mr. Cragg and Sheriff Tupper is doing some searching. Jessica comes along and wants to have a look at the note, and basically asks if Sheriff Tupper dusted it for prints, and he's like, "Well, not after Emma got through with it. See, this is peanut butter and this is molasses." And they find a pair of shoes, a pair of pink shoes, the heel of one which is missing, and they're definitely probably Nancy's shoes. So Jessica goes and runs off because she has an idea after seeing the shoes, and she finds the heel of it down by some in a rocky spot where walking would be difficult in heels. And they're definitely Nancy's shoes. She's seen them before. So they go and question Nancy about the location of her shoes, and then show her that they have them to get the confirmation that they're her shoes. And Jessica wants to see her try them on. So she tries them on, and naturally they fit because they're her shoes. And the sheriff is like, "Now I gotta arrest you for murder." And Jessica's like, "What are you arresting her for? She didn't do it." And Tupper's, the good sheriff, is like, "Well, you said they're her shoes." I'm like, "Yeah, I said they were her shoes, not that she killed him." And then Jessica's like, "Well, maybe you should arrest her." Except, even though they were going to arrest her, she wants to keep the shoes, the evidence of the shoes, completely confidential. The next thing you see Terry Jones, the man who loves Nancy so much, come on in and talk to the sheriff about about having arrested her and wanting to see her. And of course, the sheriff is he rambles on a bit and ends up kind of implying that perhaps Mr. Jones might be an accessory to this. And immediately the man backpedals and is like, "Now wait a minute, Sheriff. I had nothing to do with this. Blah blah blah." Even though just a minute ago he was professing undying love for Nancy. So he goes in and leaves without seeing her. And Nancy was just on the other side of a door and heard the whole thing and doesn't look impressed. So then you see the three daughters that are other than Nancy and Mr. Shelby having been out living it up and are quite a little bit inebriated and having a gay old time. And Mrs. Fletcher's there to talk with them about Nancy being arrested. And kind of laying things out for the lot of them. And then gives basically she ends up priming the pump and speaking with Maggie, who had been arrested before, and basically giving her a paper bag, and saying to give that to the sheriff when she sees him. Then the next thing you see is the inside of Jessica's house as somebody breaks a window and lets themselves in. And starts heading through the house. All you see is feet heading through the house and up the stairs, pausing as one of them creaks, and then stepping back down the steps. Because Jessica is waiting and has a conversation with the intruder, who is Maggie. That's right. It's Maggie. And they have a conversation where Jessica explains how she figured things out. That it wasn't Nancy, but it was Maggie, because the entire thing was set up to basically make Nancy the scapegoat. Down to the point that Maggie even says that it couldn't be her shoes because she doesn't wear pink. And at no point did Jessica ever say that pink. She never mentioned the color of the shoes were pink. And she explains how she figured it out. She has that they have that moment where she lays it all down on the line and gets Maggie to confess right then and there. And it's a pretty emotional moment for Maggie because of everything that she did, all the sacrifices she made, etc., etc., and that she's going to have to kill Jessica and make it look like a burglar came in. And Jessica is quite amused at this because, for being so clever, it's a very simple and easily refuted plot that she has for framing or for killing Jessica and making it look like somebody else. Because Jessica called Sheriff Tupper the moment she heard the window break and left the phone off the hook. So the sheriff has been listening in on the entire conversation. And Jessica tells the sheriff that he'd better get over here and arrest her, and then hands the phone to Maggie. Which ends the mystery. You get to see Nan talking with Jessica as they kind of she kind of helps make Nancy feel a little better despite all this horrible stuff that's been going on around her. Nancy gets in a cab and heads off to the big city after giving Jessica a hug. And then Sheriff Cragg pulls up in a wonderful pickup truck and talks to Jessica about going fishing. basically invites her along. So Jessica gets in and is like, I'll show you the secrets of angling, how to do it properly and whatnot. And they ride off into the sunset, so to speak. And credits roll, the music plays, and Cabot Cove is safe for another day because of the wonderful Jessica Fletcher. So yes, that is the second episode of the Murder, She Wrote Rewatch podcast, Deadly Lady. One thing I forgot to mention is the fact that the name Deadly Lady not only refers to Maggie, but also refers to the hurricane. Because when Ethan Gregg comes in at the beginning of the episode, he mentions that the hurricane is a real deadly lady. So it's a wonderful little double play on words there that I quite like. But it was a pretty good episode. I had forgotten how much I enjoyed watching these episodes because it was such a treat to watch, and I laughed along with it. So that's it for this episode of the Murder, She Wrote Rewatch podcast. I think I'm going to try and do one episode of this every 2 weeks as I can. I'm kind of working on getting my schedule figured out for it, so keep in mind to that. I'll try to do it every 2 weeks. I should be able to, and we'll see how that goes. So if you like what I'm doing here, please give that like button a tap. Give that subscribe button a tap as well if you haven't already, so you can be kept apprised of when I do new videos. I usually try to do at least one video out a week, if not more. I'm doing pretty good at doing the more videos, but I will only ever promise one. And throw a comment in the comment section. If you're watching along, what did you think of Deadly Lady and the sleazy lawyers and the convoluted plot that goes along with it? Let me know. I'd love to get a discussion going with some people. And until next time, my friends, you all keep your eyes peeled, and we'll have another mystery next time.